Single mom's incredible struggle for baby formula revealed. CEO's touching act transforms her life. In the heart of a small, economically challenged town, Sarah's world felt increasingly heavy. Every morning brought a circus of chaos as she struggled to get her 3-year-old, Jamie, dressed while juggling a screaming 1-year-old, Lily, in one arm. Breakfast. Often a burnt piece of toast snatched in haste. The remnants of the breakfast bar were long forgotten as her shift at the local diner loomed. Once there, customers groaned with happiness at her radiant smile, unaware it sometimes masked her worries, a facade that cracked a little more each day. With inflation rising like the sun each morning, Sarah fought an uphill battle. The local grocery store had been stripped of baby formula, leaving her nauseous with worry. How would she feed Lily? The empty shelves haunted her, sorrow looping tightly around her heart. Am I failing them? Became her silent mantra, echoing in the back of her mind long into the night as she crunched numbers on her dwindling budget. The shame of needing help weighed heavily on her, making it nearly impossible to voice her struggles. The neighbors noticed, glancing at her with pity or avoidance, feeling powerless to aid. Should they speak up, or mind their business? Sarah's plight, masked in smiles, inspired her to find her voice. In desperation, she poured her heart into a local online forum, exposing the agonizing details of her struggle. I just want to feed my kids. The emotional weight of those words hung in the air, unseen yet potent. Mark, the CEO of a local pharmaceutical company, stumbled upon her post. His heart clenched. He grew up like this, watching his mother work all hours for the scraps of life. Inspired, he reached out to Sarah, offering both hope and an elaborate plan to launch a local initiative. This can genuinely change lives, he promised, and for the first time in ages, Sarah dared to believe. Yet just as the tide seemed to turn, a fresh wave of concern cascaded over her. Skepticism arose from neighbors questioning her authenticity. What if she's just looking for a handout? Murmurs rippled through the streets, leaving Sarah breathless with doubt. The loneliness settled in again, a companion that wouldn't leave. But instead of retreating, she found strength in the shadows. Mothers rallied around her, holding signs and sharing their own stories of hardship. No more silence. They shouted, igniting a new fire of community spirit. As the local drive gained momentum, Sarah transformed. The timid woman who couldn't ask for help was now a beacon of resilience, urging her neighbors to stand together as one. They fostered kindness amidst the strife, pushing the negativity back into the ground from which it sprang. Hope bloomed, and for every moment of doubt, there were 6 moments of support lighting the way. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension tightened in the air, yet Sarah stood firm. The rising support was palpable and electrifying. But this newfound recognition also opened old wounds of social injustice and community divides. As more eyes turned toward her, the stakes heightened. Would her effort unite the town or deepen the divide? Sarah's journey had only just begun, and the heart of her story begged the question, what does it mean to truly support one another in the face of adversity? The rally was set for Saturday, an event that would pull the town together to support Sarah's initiative. Signs waved, children bounced around her feet, and the voices of women echoed with determination. We are not alone. They chanted, each word weaving a tapestry of hope in the air. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Sarah found herself wearing a smile that reached her eyes. This was more than a fight for baby formula, it was a banner of unity. Mark had rallied local businesses, and donations poured in. They weren't just providing supplies but creating a network of strength around every struggling mother. Sarah didn't just want to get through this, she wanted to help others navigate their own struggles. As she looked around, she felt something shift within her. The skeptical murmurs she had felt at the beginning dulled to whispers lost in the chanting crowd. She hadn't just found her voice, she had ignited a community spirit. But then, as the noise of excitement filled her ears, a chill ran down her spine. She spotted two familiar faces in the distance, neighbors who had once looked at her with disdain, now staring intently, arms crossed defiantly. Their expressions were unreadable, but Sarah felt their judgment like a lingering shadow. The weight of their disapproval was suffocating. Why can't they see this is for everyone? She thought, frustration bubbling under the surface. Each act of kindness and generosity was a reminder that, in this fray of emotions, there would always be opposition. As much as she felt the weight of support, the burden of doubt still hung heavy. Were they genuinely curious, or just waiting to pounce on her potential failure? The event commenced with laughter and music, but Sarah's heart raced, torn between gratitude and anxiety. Standing at the podium, she gazed out at the crowd, feeling a wave of love wash over her. With each face that looked back, she could envision their stories. The town was a patchwork of struggles, each thread vibrant with life's challenges, yet here they were, gathering to uplift one another. It was a powerful image, yet it felt fragile. Sarah took a deep breath, steadying herself. "This is our moment," she said, her voice cracking slightly as she began. "Together we can ensure no parent has to feel the burdens I've carried." Applause broke out, filling her with warmth. But she couldn't shake off the lingering doubt. She was terrified of failing this new family of hers. As she spoke, a fire ignited within her, pushing through the anxiety. "We're starting this initiative to provide baby formula and support families across our community," she proclaimed. The energy in the crowd surged, and chants of encouragement swelled around her. But in the back of her mind, the judgment of her neighbors gnawed at her resolve. Staring at their impassive expressions only fueled her fears. Would they continue to criticize her efforts? Could she genuinely inspire lasting change? In that moment of triumph, doubt lingered like a storm cloud. Could she keep hope alive even when there were those who wanted to see her fail? As she finished her speech, an overwhelming chorus of support erupted, and for just an instant, everything felt perfect. But the unexpected presence of those opposing faces made her heart race. It was clear that the journey ahead would be filled with not just support, but also resistance. What would she do when the positivity was challenged again? As her eyes scanned the crowd, she clenched the podium. "Together, we are stronger," she shouted, yet even she didn't entirely believe it. Would that strength hold in the face of criticism? With a deep breath and a flicker of fear in her heart, Sarah stepped down, uncertain of the battles yet to come. She had ignited a spark, but would that flame endure against the winds of discontent? As Sarah stepped away from the podium, the applause echoing in her ears felt like an embrace, yet the tightness in her chest reminded her of the looming uncertainties. She wove through the crowd, high fives and smiling faces greeting her from every direction. But the two neighbors Maggie and Tom still stood at the back, arms crossed, their expressions hard to crack. "Sarah! That was amazing!" Mary, a fellow mother, beamed, her eyes glistening with tears. "You've really brought us all together. Thank you." I just hope I can keep it going," Sarah replied, managing a smile but feeling the weight of her doubt loom heavier. As the event continued, families mingled around tables stacked with food and supplies, kids darting around like little fireflies. But with every smile, every clap, Sarah could feel those two figures watching her. What were they thinking? Did they doubt her? She wished she could just shake off the unease. "Hey, Sarah, can we talk?" Mark appeared suddenly, his hands in his pockets, an easy grin playing on his lips. She noticed his excitement and the genuine enthusiasm bubbling in his tone. "Sure," she said, following him to the far side of the park where the loud chatter faded. "I'm so proud of you, today was a real turning point," he said, his eyes shining. "Everybody's talking about how much the community needs this and how much they appreciate your leadership." "Thanks, Mark," she replied, but the nerves twisted her stomach like a knot. "But what about Maggie and Tom?" They don't believe in me. What if they convince others? Mark leaned against the picnic table, a reassuring presence. Listen, you can't please everyone. You've got to focus on the people here who believe in you. They're the ones that matter. As he spoke, Sarah felt the warmth of his words slowly unraveling the tension. Maybe he was right. But her thoughts were still tangled, swirling around what Maggie and Tom might say in quiet corners of the town. I know, she said eventually. But what if I fail? What if I can't keep this going? Remember this failure isn't the end of the road. It's just a bump. And if it happens, you won't be alone. We're here for you. His confidence shone through, and Sarah took a moment to soak it all in. Perhaps everyone wouldn't turn their backs on her if things went awry. Perhaps this was about more than just baby formula. It was about cultivating a community that would catch each other when they fell. Returning to the crowd, she found herself smiling more genuinely now. Sarah worked her way through the gathering, exchanging hugs and laughter, soaking in their support until the shadows of doubt began to fade. The event began to wind down, vibrant chatter slowly dwindling. With each smile and wave, her heart lightened. But as she reached for the last plate of snacks, Maggie approached her. The tension surged back to her chest. Maggie, she braced herself, unsure of what to expect. Hey, Maggie said coolly, glancing at the ground before meeting Sarah's eyes. I just wanted to say I saw what you did today, and I think it might have a bigger impact than I first thought. Sarah's heart skipped. Was this the acknowledgement she had longed for? Really? She pressed gently, gauging sincerity in those words. Yeah, Maggie continued, her expression softening. I still have my concerns, but maybe this is worth a try. Suddenly, everything felt charged with potential. Just like that, a crack of light pierced through the shadow. But would it be enough to withstand the potential fallout from others? As Sarah processed the unexpected shift, another reality began to settle in. What if this dialogue continued, fostering more connection? Could she turn doubt into understanding? With renewed hope in her heart, she watched as laughter erupted around her, but in her chest, a new worry began to grow. What would happen if understanding turned to disagreement again? Could she really uphold this flame of hope? The journey ahead felt filled with promise and peril alike, and Sarah grappled for a deeper truth. How far could one voice truly reach? The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a golden hue over the park. Sarah felt a rush of warmth in her chest, but the shadows cast by her doubts still lingered. As families packed up their things, laughter echoed in her ears like a sweet tune, yet a lingering anxiety gnawed at her spirits. She found herself standing off to the side, watching the mingling crowd but feeling utterly alone. Did you see Maggie? I think she might be coming around, Mary said, bounding over to Sarah with a bright smile. If she is willing to give you a chance, that says a lot. That's true, Sarah replied, hesitant to fully embrace the optimism. But what if it all falls apart? It's easy for someone to say they're on board until things get tough. Mary's smile faltered for a moment, then she touched Sarah gently on the arm. You're not alone. We believe in you, and that's what matters. You have an army behind you, ready to fight for this cause. Sarah's heart swelled at Mary's words. It was a comforting reminder that even when doubts loomed large, she had a community standing beside her. But as she shifted her gaze, her eyes caught Tom's piercing stare in the distance. His expression hadn't changed, arms still crossed defiantly. The sight made her heart sink again. Maybe I should go talk to him, she murmured, mostly to herself. Are you sure? It might be too soon, Mary warned, taking a deep breath. Sarah knew she had to face this head-on. It's now or never. As she walked toward Tom, the distance felt heavier with every step. The laughter faded into a dull roar in her ears. What would she even say? Hi, I hope you're willing to consider supporting me. That didn't sound right. Tom glanced up as she approached, and for a split second, a flicker of surprise crossed his face before his brow furrowed again. What do you want? He asked bluntly. Just a moment of your time, she said, embodying courage she wasn't sure she possessed that he didn't respond, merely nodded slightly and shifted his weight, waiting for her to speak. I saw you watching today, and I'm curious about your thoughts, she began, forcing the words out through the tightness in her throat. I understand you have doubts, and that is fair. But I care deeply about this community and the families here. I want to help. Tom shifted again, the tension in his posture evident. You think you can just come in and fix everything? This isn't just some project to take on, Sarah. It's people's lives. I know that, she said, her voice rising slightly in urgency. But I believe together we can create something beautiful. I'm scared, too. But I'm ready to try. A silence hung in the air between them, thick and unyielding. For a moment, Sarah thought she might cry. Would this be another lost cause? Just when her heart had begun to fight, would it be stomped down again? After what felt like an eternity, Tom finally spoke, his voice measured and serious. You'll face pushback. This isn't going to be easy for you, or anyone else. But if you're serious, if you truly want to make this work, I'll consider helping you find the right path. Hope fluttered in her chest, but something else loomed questions. Was Tom really ready to help her, or was this just polite words to soften his discontent? I can't promise perfection, she replied, careful with her words. But I'm willing to put in the effort, to listen, and learn. As they parted ways, a newfound determination fired inside her. She had set the wheels in motion, but how would she navigate the challenges ahead? With doubt and hope swirling within, Sarah felt the path stretching out before her, each step uncertain yet filled with potential. Just when she thought she was beginning to grasp the threads of connection, another sobering thought struck her. What if she couldn't bridge this gap? What if the walls built by fear and skepticism proved too high to scale? As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, Sarah stood beneath the fading light, heart racing at the thought of tomorrow. What awaited her in the unfolding day? The next morning, Sarah woke up with determination and a flutter of trepidation in her chest. She sat up, sunlight streaming through her window, wrapping her in a soft embrace. Today would be different, she could feel it in her bones. As her son, Ben, stirred in his crib, she pushed her doubts aside. She needed to focus on him and the community that was slowly starting to rally around her. After feeding Ben and getting him dressed, Sarah found herself in front of her laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She had started a blog to share her journey, little thoughts that bounced around in her mind. Today, she would write a post about her plan to support families in need. But would her words be enough to reach the hearts of those who needed to hear them? Taking a deep breath, she began typing. Today is a new day. After a challenging weekend, I feel more inspired than ever. While I know some people may see my efforts as a pipe dream, I believe in the strength of our community. We can come together and make a difference for our families. I'm calling on everyone to lend a helping hand. As she hit publish, a mix of anxiety and excitement coursed through her. Would anyone even read it? Gears turned in her mind, and she remembered Mary's words. Seeing other people's laughter and connection at the park had lit a fire within her, and she wanted to share that warmth with everyone. A few hours later, while Ben napped, she took to social media, sharing the blog post and her vision for a community support event. She asked for volunteers, resources, and stories. The sound of her notifications ringing brought her excitement. People were liking and sharing her post. Then, just as Sarah felt a rush of hope wash over her, a message appeared from Tom. I saw your post. Are you serious about getting something organized? I have some ideas. Her heart raced. This was the opening she had been waiting for. They could form a plan together, maybe even get others involved. Thinking back to their conversation the day before, she felt a confidence bubble up. After a few exchanges, they agreed to meet that afternoon at the local cafe. As she drove there, anticipation brewed inside her. The cafe was bustling, the midday light flooding the small space, but her mind was focused solely on Tom. What was his vision? Would they mesh together, or would their differences lead to conflict? They settled into a corner booth, and after a few minutes of awkward conversation, Sarah decided to be open. Listen, I know we have different ways of looking at this. But I want to hear your ideas. You know this community better than anyone else. Tom nodded, leaning forward. I appreciate that. I won't sugarcoat it. There are going to be people who resist change. But if we attack this together, with a clear message, we might have a chance. You have to be ready for the pushback. As their discussion deepened, Sarah felt a surge of hope. They mapped out possibilities, brainstormed ways to encourage families to come forward. But something else was happening too. Each new idea brought them closer, as if they were building a bridge together. Then, amid discussion, Tom shared, I've been there too. I've seen families struggle. My sister was a single mom, and it broke my heart not being able to help her the way I wanted. Sarah was taken aback. I didn't know that it must have been so hard for you. The vulnerability between them created a bond, a shared understanding that felt powerful. Suddenly, she realized this partnership could be transformative, not just for her but for others. As their meeting came to a close, Sarah felt a scintilla of hope. Could they really pull this off? What would happen when they faced the inevitable pushback from those unwilling to change? She left the cafe with a sense of purpose, but the looming thought nagged at her, what if their combined efforts crumbled under pressure? As she drove home, adrenaline kicked in as she thought about all the work ahead and how essential it was to keep their spirits high, even when faced with doubt. Was she truly ready for what lay ahead? The sun dipped low in the sky as Sarah's heart brimmed with excitement, but darkness lingered, a reminder of how far they still had to go. What would they encounter when they reached out to the community with their plan? The next day dawned bright and early. Sarah woke up determined, but she could feel a weight pressing on her chest. Ben giggled in his crib, his joy pulling her back from her worries. The plan was coming together, but the doubts crept in again. What if it was all too much? She couldn't let him down. After breakfast with Ben, she settled in front of the laptop once more. This wasn't just a blog anymore. It felt like a lifeline. She started drafting an email to Tom, outlining their ideas and how they could amplify their message. The thought of partnering with him again ignited her passion. She typed furiously, pouring her heart into every word. I think we can start small, maybe a community meeting at the park. We could create a safe space for families to share their struggles and connect. If we could get some local businesses on board, we could provide resources and food. Just then, her phone vibrated. It was a reply from Tom, sounds great. Let us do it. I have a few contacts who might help us get the word out. We just need a date. The excitement flooded her. They were moving forward. But then a darker thought crossed her mind. Would anyone show up? What if no one came? She fought against the rising tide of anxiety, remembering her own experiences of isolation and the neighbors who had reached out to her. By the end of the day, they had set a date, 2 weeks from now. Sarah couldn't stop thinking about it. She envisioned the park filled with laughter, families connecting, sharing stories. But what if it fell flat? Her heart raced at the very thought. That night, she lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling. The sound of Ben's soft breathing was comforting, yet her mind wouldn't rest. She thought about the families similar to hers, the ones who might feel alone in their struggles. Determination surged within her. If even one family could find support, that would mean everything. 2 days later, Sarah received a message from Mary, the mother she met in the park weeks ago. Hey Sarah. I saw your post. I want to help. I can bring snacks and see if my friend who owns the local bakery will donate some goodies. A warm rush of gratitude filled her. Connections were blossoming around her, but the fear nagged at her still. They were all counting on her to pull this off. Her heart pounded as she thought about the growing network of support forming around the event. As the days flew by, Sarah found herself pouring more time into organizing. She made flyers, enlisted help for decorations, and reached out to more local businesses. The days blurred into one another, a whirlwind filled with the laughter of Ben and the planning for something bigger than herself. However, the night before the event, the weight of possibility became almost unbearable. She stared at the assembled supplies, her fingers twitching nervously. What if no one showed up? What if the idea she had dreamed up crumbled under the crushing weight of reality? On the day of the event, she woke up with a mix of excitement and dread battling inside her. Driving to the park, doubt whispered in her ear. But just as she parked, she saw a familiar face. Tom was already there, helping set up tents and tables. As families began to arrive, Sarah felt the floodgates open. Laughter, hope, and connections began to cultivate in the air around her. But even as she soaked in the warmth from those coming together, the uncertainty lingered. Would they hold on to the sense of community they had built, or would it dissipate like a summer rain? As more families trickled in, Sarah steeled herself. They were all here. Now, could she truly create the change they all desperately needed? And when the first person approached her with tears of joy, she felt a flicker of hope ignite. What she didn't expect was the surprise announcement that would change everything. As the crowd gathered, Sarah's heart thumped wildly in her chest. A teenage girl approached her, holding a slip of paper with a shaky hand. Excuse me?" she said, her voice small but steady. "I was told you were organizing this. I'm really sorry to bother you, but I'm here to help. Not a bother at all." Sarah replied, her smile broadening. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, brushing a stray hair behind her ear. "I'm Mia. I saw the flyer and just wanted to help however I can." Her eyes darted towards the growing crowd, a mixture of excitement and nervousness clear on her face. The girl's determination reminded Sarah of her own urge to connect, to help. "Thank you, Mia. We could use all the hands we can get. How about setting up the snacks?" "Sure," Mia said, breathing a bit easier as she joined the others buzzing about the area. As Sarah watched her move through the crowd, it struck her how quickly this gathering was becoming more than a meeting. It was a community blooming right before her eyes. Parents carried their little ones in their arms, laughter floated through the air, and the warmth of connection wrapped around Sarah like a cozy blanket. Then, just as she began to feel a surge of relief, Tom called her over. "Hey, Sarah. Can you come here for a second?" His brows were furrowed, and Sarah felt her stomach twist. "Was something wrong? Is everything okay?" she asked, her voice tight. "We've got some unexpected guests," he said, gesturing toward a group of people standing close together, their expressions serious. Sarah's gut dropped. The vibe had shifted, the clarity of joy began to blur under a cloud of uncertainty. As she approached, she recognized one of the men. Glaring tattoos decorated his arms. He'd been known around the neighborhood for various reasons, some good and some questionable. "What's going on?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Listen," he said, his tone unexpectedly earnest. "I heard about what you're doing here. My sister has 2 kids and is struggling. We've been going through hard times." His eyes darted to the crowd, as if gauging how they'd react to him being there. Sarah softened. "Well, we're here to support everyone. There's food, resources, and a lot of people who want to connect." She meant it, though uncertainty lingered in the back end of her mind. Would they accept this man and his sister? The man nodded slowly, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. "I want to change things for my family. I'm willing to help if you'll have us." In a split second, her heart began to swell with something unexpected hope. This was the very essence of community. She took a breath, even as nerves crept up her spine. "Absolutely," she replied, standing a little taller. "There's room for all of us here." The man's relief was palpable, and Sarah turned, watching as families began to integrate. The barriers, she realized, weren't as solid as she had imagined. They could break down, one connection at a time. Just then, the energy in the park shifted as Mary returned, flanked by a jovial group from the bakery, carrying trays of colorful pastries and cookies. "I have to tell you something," she exclaimed, grinning widely. "They heard about our event and prepared enough goodies for everyone." She turned to Sarah, her eyes sparkling. "This turned into an even bigger gathering than we planned." Laughter erupted, and people began to draw closer. It felt electric, a wave of unity reaching across familiar faces and new ones alike, but as Sarah looked around, she couldn't help but sense an undercurrent of something powerful yet unspoken. The doubts and struggles everyone carried were still there, simmering beneath the smiles. When a voice called out from the back, drawing everyone's attention, Sarah's stomach twisted once again. It was a familiar face, a mother from the neighborhood who had been struggling with her own battles. "I just found out I don't have enough formula for my baby," she said, tears brimming in her eyes. "I don't know what to do." The crowd fell silent, a shared gasp echoing through the air. All eyes turned to Sarah, and her heart raced. The moment of truth was here. This was what they gathered for, to lift one another up. Would they rally together to support this mother in need? Could they create the kind of change they all desperately sought? As the crowd began to communicate, Sarah felt the flicker of something transformative. Would this be the spark they needed? Would they all lean in, even when it felt impossible? Through the questions trailing in her mind, a challenge stood firmly before her. Today was only the beginning, but how far would they go? The tension hung thick in the air. Sarah could feel the collective heartbeat of the crowd, each person processing the weight of that mother's words. Just a moment ago, they had been sharing laughter and pastries. Now, the poor woman stood vulnerable, her needs stark and raw against the warm sunshine. "Does anyone have any formula to spare?" Sarah asked, her voice strong even as her heart pounded. "Or resources? We need to help her right now." A young father stepped forward, his baby cradled against his chest. "I have some extra, I can bring it in the car." His voice trembled but was committed. Two women exchanged glances and nodded. "We can check our pantries, surely someone has something. We can make a quick run if necessary." Sarah's heart swelled at their willingness to help. "Let us gather anything we can," she encouraged, "together we can figure this out." Murmurs spread through the crowd, urgency creeping into their voices. Sarah watched with pride as neighbors began to pull out their phones and discuss ideas. What started as a gathering for food now turned into a lifeline for this mother. Mia rushed back, arms laden with snacks. "Did I miss something? What is going on?" she asked, concern etched across her youthful face. "There's a need. We have to find baby formula," Sarah explained quickly. "Can you help gather contributions? We need to show that we're here for each other." "Absolutely," Mia exclaimed, sprinting off to rally more help. In that moment, Sarah felt a bond forming, a unity that seemed to blend into the very air they breathed. One by one, people derived strength from one another and rallied to support the mother in need. The young father returned, handing over a few cans. "This is all I have left. I hope it helps." His purpose was poignant, and as he spoke, the eyes of the gathering focused on the mother. The power of shared experience enveloped them. Several neighbors retreated, digging through their homes, returning unbidden with various supplies. Formula, diapers, and wipes were gathered like treasures. Each item packed onto a makeshift table, and Sarah watched as hope bloomed. The mother looked around, her eyes wide with disbelief. They were coming together, just as Sarah had dreamed. Thank you all so much," she managed, tears streaming down her cheeks. As laughter mingled with tears, Sarah felt a deep well of emotion rise within her. This was it, the conception of a true village. The barriers were disappearing. The grief and struggles they each carried were slowly being lifted, even if just for a moment. Then, the words of the man with tattoos echoed in her mind. "I want to change things for my family." What had started as an ordinary day had morphed into a turning point, but just as she reveled in the connection, a dark figure strode towards the crowd. It was the man from earlier, the one who offered to help with the resources. Yet, he looked strained, not relief, and Sarah's heart dropped. "Listen, we need to talk," he said, stepping up close in an urgent whisper. Fear flickered in his eyes. It's not just my sister, there's more at stake than we realized. Her stomach twisted. What was he talking about? Was this just another layer to their struggle? As Sarah looked around at the gathering, the warmth threatened to spill over into an unknown abyss. Now she had to wonder, was there something deeper buried within their community? The struggle for life wasn't as simple as supporting one mother but part of a larger battle. What awaited them next? The questions hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. What challenge would loom on the horizon? The man's voice cut through the moment, drawing everyone's attention. The cheerful gathering was abruptly tinged with uncertainty. Sarah stepped closer, her heartbeat quickening as she tried to read the man's expression. "What do you mean, more at stake?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. His eyes darted around, ensuring no one else was eavesdropping. "It's not just about the formula," he confessed, glancing at the mother whose tears still shimmered under the sun. "There's a network of families struggling, not just my sister. They're facing eviction, job losses, it's a lot. I thought we could do something to help, but it's bigger than I imagined." Sarah's gut twisted a little tighter. She took a breath, trying to grasp the enormity of the situation. Around her, she could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The laughter and joy that had bloomed moments ago began to fade, replaced by a palpable tension. "Why didn't you say something earlier?" she pressed, a mix of frustration and concern boiling in her chest. "We could have done more. I thought it was just my sister, just a small issue," he responded, his voice shaking. "But now, I realize we're all in this together, and that frightens me." The young mother took a step toward Sarah, gripping her own baby closer. "I don't want to be a burden," she murmured, vulnerability crackling in her voice. "I just need help. I don't want others to lose their homes because of me." Sarah felt her heart ache. It wasn't just about one mother anymore, but an entire community on the edge. "You're not a burden," Sarah insisted, her passion igniting. "This isn't just your fight. We can rally around everyone who needs it. We can build something that lasts." Across the crowd, murmurs of agreement began to rise. Neighbors shared glances, some eager to connect, while others stepped forward with a new determination. Sarah felt the threads of their fear and despair start to weave into something stronger, a tapestry of hope. Mia returned, breathless again, this time with a determined look plastered on her face. "What is going on?" "I overheard," she began, then stopped, her eyes flitting between the anxious crowd and the young mother. "Sarah wants to help everyone," the young father whispered, taking a step back, allowing the women to lead. "We just need to figure out how." As the gathering buzzed with renewed energy, Sarah began to outline ideas, suggesting community meetings, group resource sharing, and even outreach to local businesses. Together, they could gather food, clothing, and shelter for those struggling. "Maybe we can create a community board, a place where needs and services can be posted," Mia suggested, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "Yes. We can all contribute what we can," Sarah replied, her spirit lifting as a smile creased her face. The young mother's expression brightened, just a spark of hope ignited within her. "You really think this can work?" "It has to," Sarah affirmed, her voice strong. "This community is worth fighting for." The crowd seemed to swell at her words, like a wave moving through them. As they started to gather closer, sharing ideas, Sarah felt a powerful sense of purpose wash over her. But just as they began to strategize, a siren sounded in the distance, a stark reminder that the world outside still posed dangers they couldn't simply ignore, the realities lingering beyond their community quilt. That sound sent a chill down her spine. What if the siren was calling for someone in the community they hadn't reached yet? What if help wouldn't come fast enough? "Stay here," she instructed the young mother and the gathering, heart pounding. "Let me find out what's happening. We may need to mobilize faster than we thought." As she turned to move towards the source of the siren, a wave of uncertainty rolled through her. What storm awaited them just outside their circle of hope? As Sarah stepped away from the gathering, her heart raced with urgency. The siren's wail echoed in her ears, a haunting reminder that the struggles they faced were ever present and fierce. She pushed through the throng of people, each face now radiating determination, yet her stomach twisted with anxiety. What could be happening outside their fragile bubble of hope? As she reached the park entrance, the scene that unfolded struck her like a cold splash of water. A local family stood on the curb, their belongings piled high next to a moving truck. Tears streamed down the mother's face, disbelief twisted on her features as she watched the chaos unfold. Sarah recognized her Lily's best friend's family. They were on the verge of losing their home. "Hey! What is going on?" Sarah called, her voice cutting through the noise as she approached. The truck driver paused, looking frustrated, but the mother just shook her head, swallowing hard. "We couldn't come up with the rent," she choked out, vulnerability painted raw across her face. Sarah's heart dropped, but then, the determination that had ignited in her days before flared back. This wasn't just about one family anymore, their community needed to step up, to wrap around them like a quilt. Claire, the mother, looked so small standing by the truck, and it struck Sarah deep in her heart that they were all so close to losing everything. "Wait here," Sarah said, her emotions surging. "I'll get everyone." She turned and rushed back through the park where a gathering of friends and neighbors still buzzed with ideas. "Everyone. We need to help. Claire is about to lose her home." The crowd fell silent, disbelief rippling through the air like a gust of wind. Tom stepped forward, his face grave. "We can make calls, talk to local charities. We need to rally together right now." His voice was filled with urgency, igniting the crowd's spirit. Sarah felt pride wash over her as she saw neighbors nodding, murmuring to each other, determination rising. Step by step, the crowd stirred into motion, families began gathering their resources, their hearts converging for a cause beyond just gathering baby formula. Every corner of the park transformed into a powerhouse of action, donations of clothes mixed with an attempt at support where they could. As people poured out their plans, Sarah felt a wave of unity surge through her. They could do this. They could gather the funds needed, find temporary shelter, fill the truck with hope instead of despair. Each child's laughter added strength to their efforts, turning what could have been a heartbreaking day into a community that stood together through adversity. Work hands-on, neighbors jumped into personal calls, reaching out to shelters, charities, and other families willing to lend a hand. Sarah could hardly breathe, hope and fear battling within her. But with every phone call she made, with every idea shared by Tom or Mia, she felt the darkness retreat. Claire's face began to brighten as the plan took shape. "You all really care?" she asked, tears sparkling this time, not from pain but from gratitude. "Of course, we care," Sarah replied, feeling the weight of their journey together. This is what community is about. The moment they managed to gather enough funds for a temporary place and another lift for Claire's belongings, a cheer erupted within the park. The unison of voices lifted the atmosphere, wrapped around them all like a warm embrace. They were all together, each one invested in this shared battle, reminding one another that they wouldn't stand alone. As they finally made their way back to Claire, her expression turned from worry to sheer amazement. "Thank you. Thank you all," she cried, wrapping her arms around Sarah tightly. In that powerful moment, surrounded by her friends and neighbors, Sarah realized something important. This wasn't just about her anymore, she had transformed into a leader, a beacon amidst the shadows. She felt the walls of isolation fall away and the belief that they could overcome anything grow within her heart. Sarah stood with a radiant smile, the kind that reaches your eyes, and spoke out to the crowd, "This is only the beginning. We're stronger together, and we will face whatever comes next. Any person here can reach out to help, can voice their struggles without fear." Applause thundered through the park, and tears flowed, not just from Claire, but from mothers, fathers, and kids alike. They had wrapped themselves in unity, lifting spirits that had once felt too heavy to navigate alone. In the coming weeks, as Claire and her family settled into their new temporary home, the ripple of connection grew. Sarah's initiative had sparked a transformation not just for her family, but for all the families in the town. The meetings blossomed into a routine, alliances formed that went beyond resources to daycare, meals, and shared laughter. They learned to lean into each other as they navigated the unpredictability of life, and as for Maggie and Tom, they became allies, wrapped up with Sarah in this new journey, encouraging others to join in building a resilient community. On that day, when new life was breathed into families, a warmth wrapped around them all, signaling that hope and collaboration had triumphed over isolation. They had grown stronger together, and now their journey continued onward not just for themselves, but for every family seeking solidarity. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that will touch your heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help our community grow. Comment with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know the importance of supporting this channel through these actions. Join us in building something amazing.